Hi everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna. Today we are going to be making a southern vegetable plate. I adore vegetables, and sometimes that's really all I want. So we're going to do that today. We're going to make some collard greens in our Instant Pot. We're going to have some sauteed fresh corn, some fried potatoes, and some homemade mile-high biscuits. So let's get started. I'm actually going to do the greens first because they can just hang out while we're cooking. I have in here just one bag of the pre-chopped up collard greens that you buy in the grocery store. I have here some salt. I got a lot of, or that was actually sugar, about a tablespoon of sugar, some salt and some pepper because I have a lot of greens in here. But I know, the Instant Pot says don't fill it full. This is going to shrink down in just a matter of minutes once the pressure builds up, so I'm not worried about it. I'm going to add some hot sauce because I like a little bit of heat in my collard greens. You add as much or as little as you like. I like a little bit of heat in mine. So I'm going to add about, 20 drops or so. I am going to add some water, about a cup of water. Now, you can do this on the stove. All the same ingredients here, just put them in a Dutch oven and simmer them for, I like them really tender, about a couple of hours. Or you can do it in the crock pot, same thing. Just put it all in there, put it on low, let it go all day, high, couple, 3 hours. Or you can do it in your Instant Pot, which is what I'm doing today. I fried up some bacon for our corn recipe, and I'm going to use the drippings in my Instant Pot. Now, if you don't have bacon, drippings or bacon period, and you have a ham hock, use a ham hock. You could use some salt pork, just something to add some flavor. Remember, this is southern collard greens, and this is one of my favorite dishes to eat. I absolutely adore collard greens. So I'm going to put my lid on. Got it going here so you can see what I'm doing. And I got it backwards. Make sure it's closed. Make sure the little thing is on sealing. I just use my manual button. I'm doing it backwards here. And I'm going to do it for 10 minutes. Now, it takes a few minutes for it to build up its pressure. But I tell you, that's all you got to do right there. And it's done. When it's cooked, we'll stir it all together. It will be fabulous. The Instant Pot has just become one of my most favorite tools to use in the kitchen. Once it beeps and says on, that's all you have to do. Let it do its thing. We're going to get started on the biscuits because they take a few minutes to make and a few minutes to cook in the oven. I have here 3 cups of flour. Get all my ingredients out here so we can talk about it. There are 1,001 recipes for biscuits out there, and I make several different kinds. This particular one is called Mile High Biscuits. So I have here some all-purpose flour. I'm going to add some baking powder, some cream of tartar, about 3/4 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar, about 3½ tablespoons of baking powder. Remember, these are going to be sky high. Teaspoon or so of salt, couple teaspoons of sugar. That's it. We're going to whisk all that together. If you have a sifter and you want to sift it, go right ahead. I just like to whisk it in the bowl. Unless it's really, really lumpy, then I'll run it through a sieve, but I hardly ever do that. I just use my sifter and it works, or my whisk, and it works great. I have 1 egg and 1 cup of milk that I am going to beat my egg in the milk before I add it. Get that ready to go. Got to have some kind of fat. Today I am using just solid shortening. You can use butter if you want, but I like the flakiness that this gives. I'm going to cut it into cubes just to make the next part of this a little easier. Just put it in there. This is 3/4 of a cup of just solid shortening. If you want to do half and half, half butter and half solid shortening, you can do that too. Those pieces do not have to be precise. What you want to do is get your fingers in there and kind of coat those a little bit with flour. Now I'm using my pastry cutter. This is a really handy little tool to have. If you don't have one of these, you could actually do this step in your food processor and just pulse it a little bit. Or you can take two knives and crisscross it in there to cut in the butter. You could even use your fingers and rub it between your fingers. There's many, many ways, but this is a handy little tool to have in your kitchen. Really does a great job of cutting in the butter or shortening into your flour mixtures, or really anything you're doing. It's a good multitasker in the kitchen. I'm not big on tools that only do one thing, but this is really handy for lots of different things in the kitchen. I think that's probably good. I'll show you what you want. You want to have pieces about like this. You want to see some visible chunks of the flour. That's why I'm wearing an apron today, because I really don't want to get this all over me. Because Lord knows I'm messy enough in the kitchen. Make a well in the middle of your flour mixture and then pour your milk and egg in there. Some people call these angel biscuits baking powder biscuits because it does have a lot of baking powder in it, which is what causes it to rise up. You want to start in the middle, and I just use a fork to stir that flour in to the egg mixture. Have some extra flour by the side, because you might need it. All right, once you get that pretty much mixed in, let me grab a flat little spatula. Work in that flour. You will need a good surface to work on. Your counters are fine. Once you get most of that in there, take a little bit of your flour and put on your board, and then turn your dough out onto your work surface, getting all that out of there. Okay. Let's get this out of my way. And then you're going to take your hands and just kind of work that extra flour in there a little bit, because it's a little sticky. It will, you've heard me say this many, many, many times. It will depend on the humidity in your room as to how much flour you're going to need. You don't want to over knead it, but you don't want it to be sticky. You want to have a baking sheet, and I've got mine lined with a little bit of parchment paper. Your oven will need to be preheated to 450 degrees. All right, you see how that's just coming together very, very nicely. Okay, pat it into a little square, and then take your rolling pin and roll it out. It doesn't take that much effort to make homemade biscuits, and let me just tell you, they are so much better than, you know, anything you're gonna buy. They really do taste good. All right, it depends on how thick you want yours. Now, you can cut them in squares, or you can use a little round cutter, which is what I'm gonna do. And I like to just line my parchment paper with these. And I do like my sides to touch, because that way they build on each other and they rise a little higher. I'm just going to cut the rest of these out, re-roll my scraps just like you saw me do. Line these, put these on my sheet, and then I'm going to pop them in a 450 degree oven for about 12 minutes or so until they are golden and done. And when I come back, I'll have this mess cleaned up, and we're going to get started on some corn. I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, now our biscuits are in the oven. Our collards are coming up to temperature. They're not quite ready yet. The way that you know your crock pot, or not your crock pot, but your Instant Pot is up to steam, there's a couple of safety tips here I want to go over. Do not move that once you have it on seal over to steam or release, because the steam will come boiling out of there and you could burn yourself. I always put a towel or something over that when I want to release the steam, but leave it be for the time being. Okay, see, it just went over to 10 minutes from on to 10. That tells me the pressure cooking is on, and it will start counting down from there. Now, we're going to make some sauteed corn. Remember, we are doing a Southern vegetable plate, and I love corn on the cob. So I have here some fresh corn that I'm going to cut off the cob. I want to show you an easy way to do it. Take a bundt pan, put your ear of corn, and then cut your kernels off the cob, and they go down in the bowl of the bundt pan, and not everywhere. If you don't have one of these, you can take a big bowl, take a little bowl and flip it upside down and do the same thing. It really is a good way to get that corn easily off. If you do it on your cutting board or on your countertop, you're going to end up with corn everywhere. Done it many times. Let me move my trash can over. So I have here about, I have 8 ears of corn. I have my skillet preheating. I'm used to using a nonstick skillet. I'm using the skillet that I cooked my bacon in, because I'm actually going to add some of the bacon drippings, a couple of tablespoons of bacon drippings. I always, in my refrigerator, I have a metal container that I ordered off Amazon that I just keep my bacon drippings in. So every time I cook bacon, I just pour the drippings in there and I keep them. I think that very much is a Southern thing, but it makes green beans and greens and just so many different things taste so good. Because I love bacon, and everything to me tastes better with bacon in it. Pretty much anything. I haven't tried ice cream. I don't know that I would like ice cream with bacon in it, but a whole lot of other stuff tastes really good. I don't have this done ahead, obviously, so you're watching me. I think that may be enough. I'll do one more. You do as much or as little as you need. Love corn on the cob. Absolutely love it. And in the summertime, eat it all the time. I think this will be plenty. We'll just stop at this one. And sometimes I go back and I get those middle pieces with a lot of the corn juice or the corn milk in it. Oh, so good. I can taste it now. All right, my pan is hot. That's enough. I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons that I reserved of the bacon drippings. I'm going to add that corn right in there. Get the mess I made up. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. Add some salt and pepper, and I like to add just a touch of sugar. So you get all those drippings. I need a little spatula. I'm going to stir that together. I'm going to get a little bit of water, about a cup of water or so. It's not an exact science. Just a little bit of water, because I want that corn to kind of steam. That water will evaporate. Let's get that on there. If you want to add a little bit of butter, which I probably will in just a few minutes, I like to add a little butter to mine. And you've got an absolutely delicious, delicious Southern corn, fried corn. Sauteed corn really is kind of what it is. It's really good. Now, in this pan, I'm going to make a classic Southern dish. Now I went ahead and peeled my potatoes before we came on because y'all don't need to see me peeling potatoes. Fried potatoes, because in the South you need fried potatoes. And they're just so easy and so good. You will need a kind of a large skillet. Keep an eye on your corn. You will need some kind of oil. I'm using olive oil. Get my pan on. We're going to saute these. Now these are not French fries. These are just pan fried potatoes. My oil's taking a long time to come out. I like to use olive oil because I'm not going to be frying at a high temperature. And I just like the flavor of olive oil. But if you don't want to use olive oil, you could use canola or vegetable. That would be fine too. All right, we want to heat that oil before we put our potatoes in there. Let's get this down just a little bit. You want to, I'll just use the same knife. You want to cut your potatoes about 1/4 inch thick. One of my favorite ways to have fried potatoes, something my mother taught me years ago, I don't have one or I'd do it for you today, is to fry potatoes with a turnip and onion. Oh, so good. Fried potatoes, just the same way I'm doing here, except you got a little bit of sliced turnips and onions in there. So delicious. These are just regular Idaho potatoes. We want to let our oil come up to a good temperature. I peeled them and I put them in the water to keep them from turning brown on me. Okay. All righty. We're just going to slice these up. Now you can flavor these about any way you want. One of my favorite, if not my favorite herb, is rosemary. And I like to add a little rosemary to mine. If you have fresh, then add fresh. If you don't, dried is fine. Rosemary is actually one of those herbs that dries really nice. Growing my herb garden this year, I'll get some pictures and show you. I love my little herb garden. I grow it in containers. All right. Just slicing these up. You can see down in the bottom of the bowl, a little bit of the starch has come out, and that's perfectly fine. Just going to put that in there. Now, let's stir our corn. Ooh, smells so good. All right. I'm just going to let this come up to temperature just a little bit more. When I come back, we'll get the potatoes in, check our collard greens and our biscuits, and I'll be back in just a minute. All righty, now let's turn our corn down because it's about done. Just takes a minute. Oh, it's so good. Most of that water's evaporated. Our oil is up to temperature. Be careful adding your potato slices. I like to just kind of stand back and add my slices in there. Might have to do them in batches, but again, we're really not making French fries. We're making fried potatoes, so they're not going to all be golden brown like a French fry. I think our biscuits are probably done. Our greens are done. They've gone, it has switched over to what's called LO2, O3 will go up. That means it's keeping it warm. Let's get a little spatula there. Stir those around. I'm going to add some salt and pepper and rosemary. I'm just gonna sprinkle that all over. I don't like that. I'm not liking that spatula. Let me get a different one. Isn't it funny how you get used to certain utensils or so in your kitchen? All right, we're just going to let those hang out. Just wanted to get them stirred. Let's get our biscuits. I'm going to add just a touch of butter to my corn. Let that be melting in there. You don't have to do that part, but why wouldn't you? It's delicious. All right, now our biscuits are done. Oh, golly. You could add some melted butter or milk on top of your biscuits if you wanted to. And they'll become a little bit more golden, but I don't. I prefer them like this. I'm the person who likes the inside more instead of the outside. I like the really soft. Okay, I want to show you what they look like. Which one do we want? Let's cut into this one. Ooh, you ready? Look. Oh my goodness. Oh, yum. Oh, yum. Guess what I'm going to do? You'll never guess. In a million years, you would never guess. Putting some butter on there, topping that. Let that melt just a little bit, and I'm going to eat it because, oh, so good. Those are so good. Those would be fabulous for breakfast with some homemade gravy or fried eggs or fried country ham for breakfast. Our corn is done. We want to taste for seasoning. Let me get a little spoon. It's delicious. Now, our potatoes are frying. Let's turn those over. All right. Let those go for a few minutes. They take about 10 minutes or so to cook. Just keep stirring them. I want to show you how I release the pressure off of my, I got so much stuff going on back here. Off of my, now you can let that go on its own. Don't even mess with it. And the pressure will naturally release. There's a little red button back here, if you can see it. Woo! This little button right here, when that goes down, you know the pressure's gone. I don't want to wait that long. So what I'm going to do is put a towel over this little vent release, turn it over to release, and let it come out. I'm going to show you what it'll do if you don't have the towel on it. You see how it just shoots out steam? Well, I'm afraid somebody's going to get burned. So I always just put a little towel over it and let the steam out, and it just releases naturally. Let's try our biscuit because I honestly just can't wait. Oh my goodness. Those are delicious. Absolutely delicious. This is a perfect meal for me, just vegetables. I'm happy just having vegetables, and it's really inexpensive. You know, corn right now is in season, so it's, you know, you can get like 4 ears of corn for $1. Potatoes are usually always inexpensive. A little bit of flour and shortening, and you've made your own homemade biscuits. Collard greens. Greens are, I think those are like $3 a bag, $2 and something a bag. And this is a delicious, delicious dinner any day of the week. Absolutely any day of the week. All right, let's see where we are. Nope, see, it's still steaming. I really want to show you how you can tell when your Instant Pot is done. I think Instant Pots intimidate a lot of people. They're a little bit afraid to use them. You know, it's just, they're wonderful. And I have a stovetop pressure cooker made by a company called Fagor that I love. But that has been replaced by this. This is pressure cooking. It's just electric, and it just is so easy. and simple to do, and it really tastes, I think the food tastes moister and more delicious. Sometimes, just to double check, I will take a knife or something and see if that stays down, then you know the pressure's good and gone. I never ever want to open that while that little thing is up. See, the steam is almost completely gone now. So we can open up our pressure cooker and it'll ding at you. I like to go ahead and unplug mine. Now, you saw, oh golly, you saw how full, I don't know how to get this out of here without burning myself. Let me grab a wet towel, by the way, transfers heat a lot and you will burn yourself, so don't do that. Get it dry. I just want to show you. You saw how full it was. Now you see it shrunk down so much. So what I like to do now is take a spoon and stir that all together. Your glasses will steam up. You could cook this for, I did it for 10 minutes, but you could cook it for, if you want them a little more, whatever, you could cook them for a few more minutes, like maybe 15, but they're fine for me. I like them like this. Let's taste them for seasoning. You always have to taste your food for seasoning, always. A little vinegar on this, ooh. Absolutely delicious. I love them. They're perfectly cooked. 10 minutes, folks, 10 minutes, and you've got a wonderful pot of greens. All righty, now everything is done. Here are our fried potatoes. I just take them out as they get a little bit golden and just let the rest go. Here's our corn. I did sprinkle some reserved bacon over top. If you don't have any bacon, don't worry about that. And here are our delicious greens that are fine just as is, but if you like a little vinegar on them, you're going to add a little bit of vinegar and that just amps up that flavor. And don't forget our delicious Mile High biscuits. Here is a Southern vegetable plate for you to try at your home. Thank you for joining with me, and I will see you next time on Everyday Manna.